So, did you hear that they're making a They Live 2?
Two? They Live Two, really?
Yeah.
Is it actually a sequel, though, or is it going to be like a remake?
I don't know. Someone asked John Carpenter at a convention about the possibility of a They Live 2, and he said something like, "Oh, it's coming sooner than you think."
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm mixed. I'm conflicted. I mean, They Live, like I've told you before, They Live is probably my favorite movie of all time. I love that movie, but it seems to go against what the movie was all about to either do a sequel or to remake it or anything like that. It's about like commercialism and uh, the downfall of civilization because of that commercialism and because of the brainwashing in the media. I mean, you really need to see it. I'm kind of surprised you haven't yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We'll review it eventually. Don't worry, guys. We'll talk about it some more in the future. But I am the Flat Earth Reviewer, and with me is my friend George. And today we're actually talking about a remake.
Yeah. Not They Live 2, but a remake of the original moon landing. The movie is First Man.
First Man. That's as I've been saying online a lot recently. It's a remake of the original film that was produced by NASA to convince the world that America had been to the moon. And we went and saw the movie First Man to kind of have a laugh about it, I guess.
Yeah, it felt a little dirty paying money for this, but
we did go matinee at least, so it was half priced.
Yeah.
I was not going to pay full price for that, trust me, but I felt that I think we've talked about this before. We almost feel like we have a kind of duty now to see these kinds of movies, to talk about them.
Yeah, I think that's the case for any movie reviewer. You just have to watch crap movies to let everyone know what you should see and what you shouldn't see. And this is definitely a movie that you probably shouldn't see.
Well, yeah, we can get into all of that, but just so you all know, if you haven't seen it, which, I mean, you probably haven't, it's a movie by Damien Chazelle, which is the name of the director. Apparently he's American.
I think it's just Damien Chazelle,
whatever.
Which is
his name is
Americanized.
Yeah, Americanized, but he directed the film, and it stars Ryan Gosling and Claire Foy and Jason Clarke and a handful of others, and we're gonna get into all of that. But I think the best way to maybe go about this, to at least start us off, is let's talk about the differences between the original film and the new film, the remake. And I'd like to start with actually the direction of the movie, just the capacity of the director to convey his story to us. And I'll make one thing really clear right now. I personally don't think that Stanley Kubrick directed the original moon landing film, because I think that director was probably killed by the government. I don't think they would have kept somebody like that around.
Yeah, I have some opinions about the direction of the film that I think that we can go in further, but I wonder how much Damien Chazelle knows.
Yeah, so this is kind of a good place to start with the director. It's obvious that the first moon landing director, he would have known everything, and that's why personally I don't think he's still around. But we've talked about this before. How much does the director know about the behind the scenes workings with NASA and with the government? How much do they know about the attempts to sell us on these messages? Are they just trying to tell a story? Is Damien Chazelle trying to tell a story, or is he trying to promote a pro-NASA message to us?
Well, I have conflicting feelings about it. In a word, I'm confused by the movie. On one hand, we know that Damien Chazelle worked with NASA to get some archival footage of the original filming, both on Earth with the quote unquote, like the Apollo, the Apollo blasting off, and then also on the moon when they supposedly land. So that's one very clear connection, that Hollywood and NASA are working together to make this movie. That's irrefutable. No one can say that hasn't happened.
Yeah, there's that connection there. They're using, and I think NASA's reasoning, they always say something like, "Oh, well, all NASA's footage and images, they're all public. They can be used by anybody since it's a government entity." But I think that's just a way to streamline this process of getting NASA's propaganda out to the masses, because what's a better way to share your images than saying, this is free, you can share this with whoever you want.
Yeah, and that goes back to, I mean, if we really want to deep into copyright law, they say, or the copyright law is that historical events can't be copyrighted. And so they've made that their position on that very clear, that it's a historical event and it's not copyrighted and it's free to use, whereas creative content is copyrighted. So they've made that clear, legally at least. Obviously not true, but what I'm confused about in the movie is, and I'm not the only person. I've actually heard reviewers who are not flat earthers say the same thing, that they weren't convinced that going to the moon, or I have to speak in the shoes of someone who
believes in this.
But reviewers who believe that we went to the moon weren't convinced that it was even a good idea or it was worth the risk and sacrifice. So, and to put some context in it, the movie is in the perspective of Neil Armstrong, who is preparing to go to the moon, and he is kind of shirking his familiar or family responsibilities to be at work all the time and to risk his life, and he becomes estranged with his family, which is one sacrifice that he makes, and then also one by one his astronaut friends slowly die in these failed missions, and it has this huge impact on Neil Armstrong, and you're just sitting there wondering, why are we even trying? And so from a propaganda standpoint, I don't know, what's the point of this? Are they trying to convince us that the moon landing was like this great achievement? Because that's what it was. That's what the first one was.
Yeah, well, I think that it's a double-edged sword, really, because you see the story of a man that's entirely put his trust in the government and has sacrificed his family. He's losing friends. These are things that will happen to you if you fall into the lies. But on the other hand, this man is not who he is in the movie. This man in real life was never an astronaut. He was an actor. And any drama that was portrayed in the movie is just that. It's just drama that was drummed up for this script.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I know that. Obviously that none of this drama, none of those sacrifices were real, but convincing the masses that they were real, I'm wondering what the standpoint is. And it makes me wonder about Damien Chazelle. Like, what does he know?
Do they need him on a tighter leash? I mean,
yeah, it seems like if he were if he was just ignorant, it'd be a good story. Or if he was trying to, put some hints in the propaganda that it's flawed. I don't really know. I'm just trying to sort this all in my mind. It was just confusing. It didn't portray a solid message. Like at least the first one, what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, we beat the Russians. We got to the moon first.
Yeah.
And they have a little bit of that Soviet pissing contest in the movie, but it's not the focal point, and they don't even have the planting the American flag. So I don't know. I don't know what the point is.
Well, I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, Damien Chazelle is he French? I don't even know.
I think he's American, born in America, but has French citizenship. So it sounds like he's just this Francophile.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That's also another question. Where are his loyalties?
Yeah, it's very weird. The fact that they're trying to sanitize the American image out of this. Also, I just want to apologize to everybody. There's a lot of noise right now. I don't know if you're hearing that, but I'm hearing it in my headset here. I think this room we're paying for isn't quite as soundproof as they build it as.
Yeah, typical. You know.
But it's sorry. Anyway, frustrations aside with the supposedly soundproof booth we're in. This is a film that depicts the life of an actor playing his role. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's convoluted.
Yeah, there's many layers to this, but what I wanted to talk about was the difference between Neil Armstrong's performance, the actor Neil Armstrong's performance, and Ryan Gosling's performance as the version of Neil Armstrong that everybody believes in.
Right. One obvious difference is we do see a lot more of Ryan Gosling than we did of Neil Armstrong.
Right.
So he has that edge there. He's able to convince us a little more of his like humanity. You know, I'm saying this from an artistic standpoint.
Right.
We get to know Ryan Gosling's performance better than Neil Armstrong's.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, back then, obviously, there was no social media. There was no way to really know what was going through the actor Neil Armstrong's head. But that performance, when we see him stepping on the moon, how do those two scenes compare for you? That first contact, the first footprint pressed into lunar dirt, supposedly. I mean, there's.
Yeah.
There's actually, I don't know if you've seen these photos, but you can actually see that the sole of his boot doesn't even match the footprint, the photo they took of the footprint on the moon.
Oh, really?
It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I was expecting, so coming into this movie, I heard that the moon landing was pretty climactic.
Right.
And the I don't know even what you call it, the lunar pod or something that lands on them. Like they're in orbit on the moon and then they fly this thing down to the surface.
I knew this word at some point. Something.
Well, anyways,
I can't remember.
When that lands, it's pretty climactic. And from a music standpoint, the music really is remarkable. It gives you goosebumps listening to it.
I'll grant you that. I mean, these epic sci-fi films, and I'm saying sci-fi, not historical science fiction or whatever you want to call it. These are sci-fi movies, but they do have some pretty killer scores usually.
Yeah, and listening to it, I was listening to it a little bit after the movie, just trying to disassociate the music from the film. It is worth listening to. It's very good. So it's climactic when they land on the moon, but when he puts his foot onto the moon, it's very lacking of there's I don't remember there being any music. If there was music, it wasn't memorable at all. It was very quiet. It just seemed like unimpactful.
Yeah, I could see that. And it's interesting because that is an empty and shallow moment in reality.
Yeah.
I don't know. I doubt that's what Chazelle's intention was, filming it that way and choosing not to include the score there. But in some ways, it's kind of this subliminal thing, like, this is meaningless. This is empty. This did not happen.
Yeah, in a way, I think what he was trying to portray was kind of the feeling of disbelief. Like, is this really happening? Am I really stepping onto the moon? But it comes across as unbelief. Like, this didn't happen.
Yeah.
He didn't actually step on the moon.
Right. Yeah, I think it was an interesting choice for sure.
Yeah.
And I think there are more layers to that too than the initial, the audience may initially realize. I also wanted to discuss with you the special effects overall. And now, okay, so the special effects of the first moon landing film, how do you feel about those?
Well, I mean, obviously it's gotten better. The first is like it's grainy. You can't really see anything. You only really see shapes, and you're kind of trying to connect it with your head. It's the context of what you're watching informs probably half of it. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
the irony for me is almost that the original moon landing film, there's clearly labeled props. You know, like you were saying, the film grain it's almost impossible to see anything beyond or through the film grain.
And we know that cameras were better back then.
Yeah, they had better
I
technology.
mean, this was like 1969.
Yeah, I mean,
come
what
on.
year did like the first Star Wars come out? Like,
Well, I mean, I think it was later.
it was a few years later, but still, I mean, there were definitely cameras that were more capable back then of capturing clear images.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of movies coming out in the 50s and 60s that have very clear images. They weren't nearly as grainy, so that was an artistic choice.
Yeah, and there's also just the whole matter of like somehow the technology to get to space is like junk. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if you really look at the props they use, it's like made of lawn chairs and tinfoil and other things like that. It's really poorly, cheaply made. And here's kind of what I was getting at with this whole special effects thing. I think that in a way the effects are more impressive in the first moon landing film because they managed to convince so much of the world that, this was an event that took place. When it so clearly is not an event that took place.
Yeah, I mean, we know that. I mean, even casual viewers of the movie know that it's all special effects in First Man.
Obviously, they didn't go to the. I mean,
well, I mean, how could they?
That'd be pretty cool if they had gotten to the moon to film First Man.
to film
first moon landing.
They found out how to go to the moon so that they could film or reshoot the fake moon landing.
Well, that's kind of the joke with Stanley Kubrick. Have you heard that one? Stanley Kubrick was such a perfectionist that when offered to do the moon landing film, he demanded that they do it on location.
Oh.
But now I'm just picturing like Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong as the first man on the moon.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah,
we know that it's fake, and I don't know. It doesn't look. Obviously the special effects are their capacity to do these things are better now, but even when he's on the moon and you just see the horizon is just black, like they don't even show stars or something.
That's
like,
always bothered me so much about the first moon landing film and all the photos from the moon. It's like, where are the stars? We can see them from Earth.
Yeah, it didn't. I don't know.
The moon doesn't have an atmosphere. It looked like what's the deal?
It looked like they just threw down like a black curtain or something.
Yeah.
They didn't even try to put stars in there, and it didn't even look real. Like it's supposed to look real. It didn't look real.
Yeah.
There was just kind of like that hint that something feels unsettling watching that.
Uh-huh. It's a competently made movie. I'll give it that.
Sure.
It's competently made.
Sure.
Like you were saying, I don't think it feels that real. And I think in a lot of ways, the original moon landing film felt more real. I mean, as a kid, I bought it like hook, line, and sinker. You see how cool is that? But then when you grow up, you become a little more critically aware. And actually, when I lived in Brazil for a while, and I don't know if you knew that about me, but I lived in Brazil for a time, and the people down there, there's a lot of people that don't believe the moon landing was real. Yeah. And I think it's because their lifestyle is so different from ours. It's not like anything you're taught, anything you hear is automatically, doctrine or gospel or whatever you want to call it. It's not like you don't have to accept it for what the person says it is. They have these kind of higher level critical thinking skills that I think we've kind of missed out on as Americans for a long time because of the way our school systems work and because of the amount of propaganda pushing these messages on us. But I think it's interesting that as a kid, I saw these images and I thought, oh, how cool is that? You know, we went to the moon. But seeing this movie, I feel nothing at all. You know, I don't think, oh, this is a nice film or this is an interesting idea. I'm just like, I guess I'm cynical now. I'm so tired of the propaganda. I'm so tired of hearing this narrative and seeing it pushed on us in every single medium. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And then there's the you also have to take into account that lots of times in movies about true stories, I feel like that true story element makes up for how boring it can get.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So if something kind of ho-hum is happening, you can at least say, well, this is a true story. So that at least makes it somewhat
like,
interesting.
This is what actually happened, so they're trying to be true to the events of what occurred.
But watching this fake drama about, his family coming apart and he's not talking to his wife because he's, I don't know, disturbed by his friends' deaths or, I don't know. It's like it drags on a little bit. Like we all know how the movie is going to end.
Yeah.
Although during the movie, I don't know if you thought the same thing. I was just cracking myself up thinking, how funny would it be if at the end they said, "Oh, we found out we can't actually go to the moon. Let's just film it instead."
Yeah, I was kind of, when I saw the initial trailers, I was secretly hoping for that. Actually, I was hoping that the final shot or the final scene of the movie would be the director saying, "Cut, good job, Neil. Thanks so much, great job, everybody."
Yeah,
that would have been. I mean, that would have made the movie hilarious to me. But obviously, it did not happen.
Been a sleeper comedy.
Yeah.
No. But watching all of these this fake contrived drama, knowing that it's not real is just, it's unconvincing.
Yeah,
it's boring.
It is boring. I mean, at least throw like a unicorn in there if you're already gonna make us suspend our disbelief this much.
Yeah.
Now you took issue with I'm forgetting the actor's name now, but he played Buzz.
Oh, Corey Stoll.
Corey Stoll, yeah. And I mean, he's not meant to be a great guy in the movie, right?
Yeah, in the movie he's he actually honestly didn't get as much screen time as I thought he would.
Yeah, they kind of kept him they didn't show him as much, which there's some humor in that, I think, because, Buzz Aldrin is less famous and less well known than Neil Armstrong, but in some ways he's gotten more famous because of his antics on the internet now. Obviously Neil Armstrong's no longer around, but Buzz Aldrin's, he's punching people, he's yelling at people for accusing him that the moon landing was fake, and yet he's like dropping all these hints to us. He knows, he's so fully aware of what he is and who he is that he can go out and kind of make these jokes that are just jokes to him, and everybody just eats it up.
Yeah, what's funny in the movie, they don't make him likable. I mean, even from the start, he's making not jokes, but he's making remarks about dead astronauts and what they did wrong and stuff, and he really grinds the gears of the rest of the astronauts there, and he speaks his mind, and it's not. You're not really supposed to like him in the movie, which is, it's funny. That perspective of Buzz Aldrin in this propaganda piece, trying to kind of shut him out, make him seem like he's not
he's not as good a guy as like you might think, because I feel like there's this tendency to make these supposed heroes from history out to be these great people, but there's a certain realism to the way he was portrayed. That's probably the realest part of the movie to me, at least.
Well, and Neil Armstrong was flawed too. Yeah,
they did. I mean, that's kind of a different story for me, because you don't ever hear or see any flaws from Neil Armstrong now. People don't ever talk about them. It's just like he was this, God among men. You know, he's this incredible person that was the first person to land on the moon, the first person to step on the moon. But we never hear about any of these issues, and the film itself is just contriving these issues for the purposes of the script.
Yeah, and that makes me, again, back to my confusion. I wonder what Hollywood is trying to tell us, because, I mean, you don't really even like Neil Armstrong throughout the film, because, you know, he's brooding over his toddler daughter's death at the beginning, which is, I mean, admittedly sad, and we know that did happen. But then he puts himself into his work and then forgets his other two boys, and he hardly talks to his wife, and she's dealt with, you know, this boring family life while he's off doing these remarkable things, and he seems very selfish in the movie. So again, back to my confusion, I wonder, like, are we supposed to like him again, or are we supposed to not like him?
Well, I think the whole toddler thing is played up to gain sympathy points for him, and I think the same could be said for real life. I mean, look at JFK. I don't know what it is about the 60s and, like, babies dying, but apparently life expectancy in the 60s was like 2 months, because, you know, JFK lost some children, and I think that made him more likable as a president. You know, people thought, oh, this is a man that's been through hardship and tragedy. And I think they would use personal tragedy back then. I mean, people do it even more now, but back then they'd use those things to sell us on a message that maybe wasn't entirely accurate.
Right.
Obviously, without social media, it was less prevalent, and it was harder to get out, but you could still hear, oh, I heard that this hero that landed on the moon and walked on the moon, I heard he lost a daughter. That's, like, incredible. What a great story. What a great man. When in reality, that's just being pushed out to further the narrative they're trying to construct.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, even before in some movies I've said that I've been able to suspend my disbelief.
Right.
That's not the case here. It's just confusing. Even if I were to assume the role of a casual American who doesn't know the truth and is just going to the movies, like that, I cited that one reviewer who said that he wonders what it was all for. It's just confusing, even from the perspective of the sheep that believe this propaganda.
Yeah, I'm curious now. I haven't checked the Rotten Tomatoes score for it. Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
No.
I can look it up. Because, you know, Rotten Tomatoes is obviously just another corporate entity that's designed to sell movie tickets, and they have the ones they like, and they have the ones they hate, the studios they like and the studios they hate, and they kind of play off those. Their role in all of this is to play up the faults or the good aspects of a certain movie. So I'm curious to know. I don't know if the same conglomerate that owns Rotten Tomatoes owns the rights to First Man, but I'm looking it up right now. Sorry, this is taking forever. I'm just kind of rambling while I'm looking. I don't know why it's taking me so long. I'm usually more Google literate than this.
Yeah, you're Google foo.
Yeah, I'm a little better at using Google. So currently it holds. Okay, so this is interesting. It holds an 89% on the critic meter. How high do you think the audience score is?
Oh,
or do you think it's higher or lower?
Lower.
Yeah, because so typically the audience score is higher, right? Because the idea is that audiences are less demanding and critical of movies.
Mm-hmm.
But the audience score for this is 61%.
Yeah, that's low.
And that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's like just barely above the threshold to be considered fresh. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure it's 60 is the lowest, is the rotten threshold.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they haven't boosted the score a little bit,
just
you know,
a little bit, yeah.
Nudged it a little in the right direction so that so that it stays just north of that rotten line. Because to me, this indicates that people are getting sick of the remakes. I mean, obviously, not everybody
Yeah.
thinks it's a remake like we do, but this is not a story people are interested in.
Yeah.
But obviously, critics are trying to further this narrative. They like that it's, sanitized of the American influence. They like that it's about something that didn't happen. It's all just part of the narrative.
Right. Yeah. Not even many people that I've talked to have been ecstatic over it. And that just goes to show, hopefully, where the world is going.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a good sign. I mean, my friend, I've got a good friend. He's not into flat Earth culture at all. He's not, he's what you would probably call like the average citizen. And he saw it, and he said, "I just saw it." He texted me and said, "I just saw First Man." I said, "How boring was it?" And he said, "Extremely." So he clearly isn't falling lockstep in with the rest of the, with the critics and with a lot of the community of moviegoers that are praising it.
Right. Well, yeah, overall, I would probably give it. I don't know. It's hard to say because I appreciate the artistic integrity of it. Like I said, the score was really good. I think Ryan Gosling is good at playing a detached, not family man. Like I feel like he did a good job.
Yeah.
For, whatever he was supposed to be portraying. And the effects were good. I felt like the film editing was really good. They were able,
it's well put together. It's competently made, like I said before.
Yeah, they're able to make you feel really stressed and really really nervous because I mean, like I said, we all know how the movie ends. They get to the moon. So when their lives are in danger, just from like a storytelling standpoint, we know that they're like nothing's going to happen to them.
It's not. There's no twist or anything to it.
Yeah, but they're still able to give you this sense of nervousness when they're in this rocket ship. So I feel like it was competently made. From that standpoint, I would maybe give it like a 6.5. But from an overall context, the culture of the context stuff is like a 2.
As a film, I'd say probably 5 out of 10. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
It's fine, well made. Nothing groundbreaking or anything like that. Not that interesting, but like you were saying, the cultural context surrounding it, I'm just 0 out of 10. Don't bother. I think unless Chazelle is kind of trying to telegraph to us that maybe the moon landing wasn't such a good idea, but even if he is, it doesn't really matter because he's still portraying it as a real event.
Yeah.
See, I'm sticking with my 0 out of 10. Don't bother. It's not worth it. Not worth the money, not worth the time. I'm kind of sad to spend any money on it, but like we were saying before, it's like an obligation at this point to see these things. Got to talk about them while they're still fresh on people's minds too. I didn't want to wait until it came to Redbox or something.
Yeah. One day we're gonna have a good movie review. We promise. We
do
like movies.
Yeah, there are movies we enjoy. I've been interested in talking about these really pro NASA propaganda films recently because I think that Interstellar and The Martian are kind of in the same vein as First Man. Obviously, they're more fictional, if that makes sense. They're not based on any events that supposedly happened, but I've kind of wanted to talk about Gravity. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
Yeah, that might be one to watch, although I've heard that's pretty boring too, so maybe we should just skip it.
Well, it's life we chose, I suppose.
Yeah, it's kind of what we're doing these days, but yeah, I'm hoping to talk about some movies I actually enjoy. You really need to see They Live, man. It's a good movie.
All right. It's on my list.
Yes. Oh, you gotta move it up on your list. And
All
again, sorry, there's so much noise going on today. I don't know what the deal is. Usually when we record in here, it's less noisy. I'm going to talk to the managers of this place and see what the deal is, if we can get a better room or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know how they're trying to fool us. They have these soundproofing foam,
Yeah, it's
but the door is completely uncovered.
the doors
so...
the door's got like a glass window. I feel like in some ways this was designed by 1960s NASA. It's like super outdated technology. It's all slapped together and looks like garbage.
It looks like it could happen, but
there's only one working microphone.
Yeah.
What are we even paying? Why are we paying for this? This is insane. I don't know. I should invest. I
I'm-
don't know. It's just so expensive to invest in.
I'm just the guest on here. I don't know what you're paying for this.
Well, speaking of which, if you want to find me and other places online, I am on Instagram at at Flat Earth Traveler. No the ahead of it. I say that sometimes because that's my email, the Flat Earth Traveler. But at Flat Earth Traveler on Instagram and on Twitter, which I honestly don't use that much. That community is not my favorite.
Yeah, there's a lot of liberal bullcrap on Twitter.
Yeah, it's kind of the SJW safe haven these days. They're trying to create a safe space for people, and it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
And I'm also on YouTube, which if you're watching it on here, or you're listening on YouTube, this is the channel Flat Earth Reviewer. I'm on SoundCloud as well as Flat Earth Reviewer. Check all those things out if you're interested in more content like this. On my Instagram account, I just post travel photos and I try to encourage some discussion about the culture surrounding travel and surrounding the flat earth. And look out for more movie reviews. Hit subscribe. You know, if you've liked this, you can like. Man, I feel like I'm such a sellout, man. What am I even saying? This is bad. This is like all those other channels. What's next? We're gonna have a sponsorship next.
Yeah, that would be funny.
What's a good sponsor? What's a YouTube sponsor that everybody knows about?
I don't know.
Blue Apron or something. Yeah, buy Blue Apron. Yeah, we'll send you this food. It's only slightly genetically modified.
We've got some Cutco knives for you guys.
Yeah. Buy vaccines.
Oh my god.
But sorry about that lapse into being a corporate shill for a second. I promise not to do that in the future. But thank you for listening.
We're just trying to spread the news.
Yeah, we've had a really good time on this episode. I think you can tell it's been a little bit longer, and that's just because we had a lot to talk about. So thanks for listening. If you made it this far, we really appreciate you. And if not, go watch First Man because you don't want to hear the truth.